Welcome to episode 2 of the Stoic Rider live series. And my name's Louisa Sweden. I am the existential biker and author of the Stoic Rider. So this is a book just been published back out in August. And I thought it might help to create this live series just to give people a little bit more time to discuss any of the issues in the book. And to ask me questions as well, because that's what the whole thing, Stoics loved asking questions and ruminating on life. So that's what I hope to do on this series. So 12 of this is number 2, choose your line. Okay, so feel free to ask questions as we go through, and I'll take as many as I can. And just drop in a little heart if you can hear me okay and that you're out there. Cool. Hi guys. Right, so welcome. So the theme is choose your line, which is chapter 2. And if you've ever ridden, you know about choosing your line, that is absolutely everything. It affects your experience of the whole journey, whether you're gripping tight onto it and struggling through the corner, or whether you're gliding effortlessly. Well, it's exactly the same in life, right? The line that you choose in life will directly affect your experience of life as well. Okay, so it's all about intention, choosing that line that you'll ride, and making sure that you ride out the next moment instead of letting the road dictate how your ride is going to be. So it's having that sense of control. Okay, so I'm going to start us off by just reading. Hi guys. Hi hash brown. Hi hash brown. Delicious. I'm going to start us by reading chapter 2, choose your line, the opening chapter. All of my chapters come with a quote, which I think is pretty profound. This one was from Viktor Frankl, and it goes like this. So, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Now that's really profound if you know who Viktor Frankl was. So he was a survivor of the Holocaust, and he found that his thing that he realized while he was in there, and he wrote about it when he was out, was how it doesn't matter about your external circumstances. You can be in a prison, but you can be free still to have your own sense of choice. And that was only, in fact, your only freedom is free to choose your attitude to what happens to you. And that's pretty profound considering what he went through. So choosing how you're going to respond. And I guess for me, that came to me through, I guess, a bit of meditation and understanding that we do have power over our own thoughts. We do have the ability to acknowledge what we're thinking and not always react on everything so quickly. Meditation does help that, because what I found is that it actually gives you an opportunity to witness and observe yourself, and to stop yourself perhaps going down that spiral of thoughts that sometimes can happen. So I guess the metaphor I like to think about this is like, it's like a fishing rod, right? And you've got this spool, and your thoughts or your emotion could be like a whale catching the end of that line and pulling it, and all of a sudden this spool is going round and round and round. You're looking at it in wonder, and you're caught up in this exciting phenomena of this reel. But that's not necessarily what you want. You actually want to be able to say, well, hang on a minute. I'm going to cut that wire. I'm going to put that rod down and step away from it. And that's the gap. That's the gap that you're introducing, right? That gives you the ability to then recognize what those thoughts are doing and then act, whether they're not assess whether they're in your right interest or they're not. So that's what I found particularly important about that. Now, what it means, I guess that principle on the bike, you're constantly scanning the horizon, aren't you? You're constantly making all these little micro adjustments. And there's always one moment though when you have to make that commitment, when you have to choose that line. And sometimes we hesitate. It's other people's opinions, other people's experiences, or our fears might dictate our path. But Frankl's message is that even if you can't control that corner or that weather or other people, you can control your angle of approach. Okay, so anybody got any comments on that or any questions that they'd like to ask? Okay, well, I can tell you something about how this affects me in real life. So the last time that I had to really control my thoughts was when I was on the phone to British Gas. Now, I don't know how many people I've got from all around the world here, but I'm sure you've all got a utilities company that sometimes you have to call, right? When things go wrong, and then you're put on hold, or you then put through to someone else who's not the right person to deal with your problem. So then you're going to speak to someone else. And I must have been on the phone for 4 or 5 hours, and I had to employ this principle of, well, I can't control this. I can't control whether the person that picked up my phone and tried to deal with my problem actually knew what they were doing or what they were talking about, right? But I can control whether I lose my patience. So at the end of the day, that's your life, that's your lived experience. Why should you let somebody else take away your peace when it's yours to reclaim in any moment of any day? On any bike ride, someone cuts you up, or in the car, someone cuts you up. Sure, you can get really angry and make it ruin your day, but why do you want to give them the right to do that to your peace when you can just reclaim that? And goes with everything. Ultimately, you cannot control other people, other riders, other car drivers, people on the phone, people outside, the weather, the road, but you can control how you approach these things. Yeah, exactly, Hash Brown. It is about knowing what you can control and let it go what you can't. And the Stoics teach us that there's really pretty much nothing else but our reaction and our thoughts that are in our control. And, you can pretty much say, well, okay, I've got my bike ready to ride and I've done everything I can. I'm the best mechanic in the world, and I've used the best materials. But does that guarantee that it's not going to break down? Anything freak could happen. So yeah, yes it is. So, and that's a good question. I think the answer lays in our youth. Well, what do you mean? Expand on that a little bit, because I'm quite interested in that perceptive comment. So yeah, I'd be quite interested to hear what you say about that. Right, so I would like to read a little bit from Stoic Rider, which kind of like sums up what I'm saying. So this is from page 40. I don't know if you've got a copy of the book. I think there should be a little link somewhere if you want to order one, which is fine. But I'll quickly read this bit to you, which I think sums it all up. In a world where many choices are made for us by governments, by algorithms, and by circumstance, the one remaining freedom, as Viktor Frankl so precisely observed, is how we respond. That inner space, that flicker of autonomy, that is where our power lies. To know you have this freedom is the biggest asset you could ever have. It's the difference between shrinking back from the life that you're living or leaning quite literally into it. The Stoics called this awareness the dichotomy of control. They taught that life's challenges fall into two categories: what we can control and what we can't. Your line on the road is your choice, and what we cannot control is out of your choice. Even if the rain, the potholes, the cars around you are not. Denzel Washington, a Stoic at heart, delivered this nugget of wisdom at his commencement speech at Dillard University in 2015. He said, "Don't confuse movement with progress. You can run in place all the time and never get anywhere. Responding with intention rather than impulse is its own kind of strength. It's the skill of reading the moment, knowing when to lean in and when to hold steady and not be distracted by things on the periphery. Buddhism offers a similar, well-known teaching known as the two arrows. The first is pain, the kind that comes with being human, a sudden storm, a sharp loss, a moment of fear. These experiences strike without warning. The second arrow is different. It's the suffering that we add through resistance, through anger, or the belief that things should be otherwise. Pain may be inevitable, but suffering often isn't. We may not choose the first arrow, but we can choose whether or not to release the second. Yeah, okay, so one of the things I also want to just mention here was about deciding how to respond and the witness that you are to your own thoughts. I think if you are to examine yourself, what is it that you really resist? Because those things are very much clues to what you are, who you are as a person and what you value. I find that if I follow my values, the line it chooses itself. It becomes much more apparent. In your suffering, it's often because there's something that you are resisting. Either you are not adhering to a value that you've set, or there's a value that you want to be set, and that you aspire to, and that you're not behaving in that way. So I believe very much in like every 3 or 4 years, just having a little think about what your values are and just seeing if they've changed over time, because they do. You might have family and you might deprioritize health and fitness for school runs and things like that. But then eventually you get that time back and then it's reprioritized. So I find that self-inquiry is one of the best things we can do. In fact, it's a massively Stoic thing, that we have to understand ourselves and our behavior, and knowing that the things that are outside of our control are not something that we should be bothering about so much. So in other words, all form of negativity doesn't take hold unless we understand what people care about. Just see if I can read that again. All form of negativity doesn't take hold unless we understand what people care about. So you're saying that less we understand, all form of negativity doesn't take hold. I don't know. I mean, I find maybe the opposite, because the more that we understand people in particular, the more we understand just how human it is to make mistakes. And I think forgiveness is a way of releasing yourself, because if you don't forgive others, then who are the ones that's suffering? It's not them. They're not carrying it around. You're carrying around this. And again, it's about you reclaiming that piece of yours, that piece that you can have. I'm not saying we're all perfect, that we will be able to have that piece, a moment's notice, because like the fishing rod, something gets hold of it, drags it away, and then we're gone. We might be coming across something that's quite fearful for us, and that takes over our emotions and our thoughts. But it's that recognizing that you've gone down this track, that you've started to ruminate, and building in that bit of space to say, well, actually, what can I do about this? And if you can't do anything about it, then move on. And that's kind of the way I look at the things here. Okay, so any questions from anyone? Any other questions? Woohoo, just got the #1 gifter badge. Way! Yeah. Okay, so I hope I've explained that. That's the basis of chapter 2, choose a line. Some people say that choosing your line is something that happens over time, but I would say my experience that there's been moments in my life when I have chosen a different path. So one of them that immediately springs to mind is when I was just starting out riding, and I was pretty bad. I would be going very, very slow, and when the rain came, I'd go even slower and slower and slower. And I remember just pulling into a disused forecourt, right? And it was a disused petrol station, and a couple of people with me. And in fact, I was on a group ride, and the guide said to me, you know, what's wrong? What's wrong? You're just going slower and slower. I said, well, it's this rain. I'm just terrified. I'm terrified that I am going to slip. I'm going to go down, and, you know, I'm going to have a horrible accident. I can't see. And he said very, very gently, he said, well, look, you know, the tyres, you know, he showed the grooves to me, and he said, you know, these tyres, they're designed to grip the road, even in wet conditions. I think you're a lot safer than you think you are. And then I sort of saw that he, you know, I saw myself almost not being the person that I wanted to be. I wanted to be brave, and I wanted to be that all my life, really. I wanted to be brave enough to take on a challenge. And here I was, just really riding probably worse because of the overcautiousness of it. And I decided in a moment that that was going to change. And I suddenly said, that's it. Instead of going at the back, I'm actually going to lead. And he looked at me and thought, oh, he said, oh, okay then. And I thought, I'm going to ride out here the person that I want to be, not the person that I'm fearful, and this person that's been very fearful. And I rode out, and I stunned myself more than anything else. And it was all because in a moment I chose to be the person that I wanted to be. Sometimes you have to act the person before you become it. Not because I was still fearless, you know. I wasn't still fearless, but I overcame that fear. I had this little saying is that, you know, I made this up myself, it's a bit clunky. But basically, if you act like the person you want to be instead of the person you are, soon you will be the person you want to be instead of the person you are. And I made that because I thought if you behave in the way that you want to behave, then you will become that person. Okay. And fear, as we know, is really just a messenger. Fear shouldn't stop you. Emotions should not guide you. Emotions make terrible masters, but good slaves. So they're there to serve you. They're not there to dictate to you how to live your life. Fear is just saying, pay attention. And then you say, well, because at first you're going to be fearful of riding the bike, and you should be, because you need to skill up. It says pay attention. So yes, it doesn't mean stop. Just because you're afraid doesn't mean stop. Okay. So, yeah, fear can stop us from being ourselves. It's about understanding where that fear comes from. Absolutely, perfectly put. And that's that thing about witnessing yourself, isn't it? It's about asking those questions. I like to ask at least 5 whys. Why am I scared? Well, because it's raining. Or what? Why is it? Why are you scared because it's raining? Because I'll slip. Or why do you think you'll slip? Because the tires are slippery. Well, are they? You know, and it's finding out the facts. And it, you know, you can get much more nuanced into those questions, of course. Why are you afraid of some things can take you into very deep, revealing places into your own psyche. But I think that's only a good thing. And sometimes we shine a light onto ourselves, and we get some information from that. And with that information, we can then choose to change. I think as long as you shy away and you're fearful of maybe looking in those dark places or of asking those questions, then I think that's when the things like fears live in dark places where they're not being challenged, kind of thing. So yes, yeah, exactly. Riding your bike, look where you want to go, and the bike follow. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. One of the first things I thought of when I thought of motorcycling and stoicism being quite aligned. It was that, where you want to go. If you look over the cliff, sometimes that's where you don't want to go. So Always make a positive look to where you want to go. Don't think negatively. Don't think, I don't want to do this, because the brain doesn't work like that. If you say, don't think of a pink elephant, you'll think of a pink elephant, right? It doesn't work in negatives. So think of the good outcomes that you want in life, and that's where you will go. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I've done that quick reading that recap. So in closing, I'll just say, we can't always choose the road, but we can choose our line, right? Even in chaos. And there's a space between what happens and how we respond. And that's important. Okay. That space lies our power. So this week, ask yourself, am I steering deliberately? Or am I just reacting? And if you've drifted a bit, well, don't worry. Just look up, take a deep breath, and just re-choose your line. Okay. Well, I've really enjoyed this chat. Thank you so, so much. There's a link here somewhere. There should be a basket link to buy the book if you want to do that, or you can buy it on Amazon, or you can just join me for these chats, because I enjoyed this week very much, and look forward to having more of your questions next week. So for now, I will leave you with, so I am Stoic, the author of the Stoic Rider. Time is precious, so don't waste the ride. Thank you very much for joining me. Take care. See you next week.